and curricula had national cohesion and integration topics, and schools organized sensitization and awareness programs for teachers and non-teaching staff on national cohesion and integration, and schools had mechanisms to prevent negative ethnicity. However, the study found the following activities only marginally integrated in national cohesion and integration. The posting of teachers and principals does not necessarily put in consideration of ethnic diversity. There's the existence of cultural days that promote cultural tolerance were hardly there, just minimally there. Schools' budgetary allocations, again, did not have a provision for promoting national cohesion. Schools' billboards erected in strategic positions with messages were also not there. And schools' naming of dormitories, parks, footpaths, driveways, and so forth reflected heroes only from particular ethnic groups in which they were. Again, school libraries did not have a lot of reading materials on national cohesion and integration. The study computed a mean score for the school's promotion of national cohesion and integration and individual mean scores of schools in Embu and Nairobi counties. And you can find that Nairobi County had a mean score of 4.05, Embu 3.85, meaning Nairobi was perhaps slightly better as opposed to Embu, perhaps as an appreciation of the ethnic diversity of the cosmopolitan nature of Nairobi. The results in that table indicate that secondary schools in Nairobi County were relatively doing better than Embu County. I expected, of course, the ethnic diversity of Embu. And the implication of these results is that on a general scale, schools moderately implemented national cohesion and integration. Even those ones in Nairobi were not doing so well in terms of integration. And these findings indicate that schools were doing a commendable job towards promoting national cohesion and integration in their operations. Data was also analyzed in terms of the categories of schools. The categories of schools were national, extra county, county, and sub-county. National schools had a mean score of 3.98. Extra county had 4.01, meaning Nairobi was just moderate. Extra county was doing better. County schools were also doing better than even the extra counties, and the sub-counties were least in that with 3.78. Meaning, this data shows that county schools were leading in promotion of national cohesion, and this followed by extra county, Nairobi, and lastly sub-counties. The results of hypothesis testing were that there were no statistics. The first hypothesis is that there was no statistically significant difference between schools in Embu and Nairobi counties in promoting national cohesion. And as you can find, we computed a t-test and we found that a significance level of 0.87, which meant that there was no significant difference. The promotion in Nairobi and Embu were more or less the same, and therefore the null hypothesis was rejected. So generally, the study revealed that both Embu and Nairobi counties were somehow similar.
You'll be getting questions from us.
Yes.
But that will be after the next 3 presenters. So be with us, be online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Asante. And now I want to, you can mute this other one. Now I want to invite the director of Amaya Triangle. She will be coming to share with us her experiences in Amaya because they have been dealing with peace. I have been given your name, madam, but it is on the paper. I can't remember it in my head, but you'll come and introduce yourself. Thank you very much. Asante. Welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and share with you. And my name is Virginia Nyagudi Wahome. I'm from Laikipia County, but working with the Amaya Triangle Initiative. Amaya Triangle Initiative is an organization that was started by the 4 governors of Samburu, Laikipia, Isiolo, and Baringo to seek for peace within our region. I have it. Thank you. And as maybe some of you might well know, in 2016, 2017, we had a lot of skirmishes in those regions, especially in Baringo, Samburu, and Laikipia, along the borders. And immediately after we had our elections, our leadership from from the 4 counties, sorry, our leadership felt that there was need to look for more and better ways of sustaining the peace instead of the recurrent issues of ever getting into conflicts every time we got into politics. And that is how Amaya Triangle was born, after several security meetings were done in Nyahururu, and it started on that note. The Amaya Triangle Initiative has a secretariat, and right now, I started as a director. And I know that is why they are referring to me as a director, but today I'm the acting CEO. We have a representation of the secretariat from the 4 counties, and our main objective is to look at areas that we can collaborate in development so that we are able to uplift the livelihoods of our people, and also look at the issues that keep getting us back every time so that we are able to look at how we can support our people to get out of those areas. This is where the Amaya Triangle is, the 4 counties, the governing council, which compromises of the 4 governors and the 4 deputy governors, are the decision makers at the top. We also have the MCA summit, where, as you well know, the devolution structure, the way it's set, if there are any budgets to be put in the Amaya Triangle, the MCAs are also part of it, and so we also have the MCA summit. We also have the sector forum, where all the CECs that are involved within the pillars also come together to look at the ways they can work together in harmony for the 4 counties. And as fighting is pasture, water, and grass for our cattle, the movement of our cattle. These is the things that keep us fighting, and we're looking at how we can make the pastoralist communities embrace pastoralism as an economic way of looking at things. You know, we keep it, as much as we are looking at our culture that is on beef production, lot in pasture management, where we can train our people to make the cattle look for, the grass to go to where the cattle is instead of the other way around. We are used to moving our cattle all the way from Baringo, getting into conflicts. We want to do accelerated education. When we say accelerated, it's not just the formal class education. We want to go to the youth, the young adults, and get them to class, and get them to get educated, even if it's that small way, so that they can also have a mindset change when they are dealing with their issues. So that when we talk about pasture management, when we talk about feedlotting, they are able to embrace the concept in a better way. We're also looking also in the same education We want to look at how we can do the TVETs, and I'm glad that when Professor PLO Rumumba was taking tea with us, he talked about the TVETs, the Technical and Vocational Training Institutes. There is a very big gap. When our students do not go to secondary schools, where do they go? When our students do not go to the universities, where do they go? We want to give them life skills. We want to make sure that they are able also to get life skills that can make them get to other opportunities that are lying within our area. We promote peace and sports, we promote peace caravans, and the peace caravan that is very well known, the Laikipia Peace Caravan, is the only peace caravan that started on a social way of looking at how we are going to reduce our conflicts. And that was in 2007, 2013. And anyone who comes from those regions can remember the peace caravan. This is the concept that we are trying also to make sure that it keeps going, because it also was able to realize peace within them. There are so many towns that have been closed down because of the many conflicts that have been realized within our region. We have towns that have been deserted completely. Nobody, no economic value, no economic anything that is happening within those towns. So we are looking at how we can bring up those towns within those regions, the 4 counties, so that they are able to accelerate development by creating livelihoods, by creating opportunities, by creating jobs. You know, within our region, we call it the Amaya region. There are so many minerals, there are so many other investments that have not been realized. And so we want to make sure that we bring up the towns and make sure that we get our young people to come up to the towns and do whatever we are supposed to do. An example of what we have here is Romuruti town. Anyone who goes to Romuruti town today, compared to 5 years ago, you cannot even know that the town is Romuruti town. It's been developed completely, and we can see so many opportunities coming up within Romuruti town. On our environment, we have issues that keep us going into conflicts, the water issues, the invasive species like the opuntia, we have the madenge in Baringo, the propolis, prosopis, duriflora, and looking at how we can reduce those invasive species so that grass can grow back into those areas. For water, we have also come up with ways and systems of coordinating the government agencies that deal with water so that they are able to give our people enough water. And the Amaya mega dam is on the way. It will be done. And because the Amaya region is, covers the 3 counties of Baringo, Isiolo, Laikipia, we will see at least people will reduce the movement of moving the cattle upwards when the dry season comes in. On promoting the Northern Circuit and, as a tourism destination, we have the Lake Baringo, Lake Bogoria. We have different sites within Laikipia County that are really known to be full of wildlife and full of hotels, amenities that attract the communities that come to Laikipia to see the tourism. And so we want to develop them and promote it as a tourism destination. And above all, because as you heard earlier from the earlier speaker, that the leadership is the major people who are supposed to spearhead the issues of conflict and peace management. We've brought in on board all the leadership. Every year we have a sitting with the leadership. The elected leaders, the non-elected leaders like the security agencies, and all the opinion leaders who always get into these conflicts and even ignite the conflicts. We know, like in Baringo, we have the issue of cattle rustling that is ongoing even to date. And most of our leaders are also mentioned in the same. So we make sure that we keep checking on them, we keep reminding them why they agreed to do the MOU on all the Memorandum of Understanding for the Amaya. And because it is a signed document, we keep reminding them that they should not and they cannot get back to where we were. These are some of the things, like this meeting is a meeting that happened a month ago where we had the National Cohesion, the governors, the deputy governors, the county commissioners, and the Amaya Secretariat coming together so that we are able to do a document that can be pushed to the Ministry of Interior for us to get a conditional grant to accelerate development within our region. Yesterday, we also had another meeting, and we are pushing very hard so that the marginalization of these regions is stopped, the marginalization of our people is stopped, so that we are able to get development, just like the other areas within Kenya, because we are part of Kenya. Marginalization is also part of why we get into these conflicts. You will find that an agricultural officer cannot be able to go to Churo ward because of the insecurities. So at the end of the day, those who are within the insecurity areas, even if they are innocent, they get caught up within the development agenda. They do not get to be developed, and they get also to be sidelined because of issues that do not belong or they do not know about. Some of the achievements that we've been able to achieve is within the sector forums, all the CECs in 2018 were able to sit and prioritize some areas within the frontier counties. They were able to agree that we need water in this area. We need to do a road, a security road in this area. And when we did our meeting this year, we were able to look at it and so that at least 70% of the priority areas that had been captured in the CIDPs have already been achieved. So we are looking at the next 2 years, and we know that the 30%, we don't the issues on accountability of the money that is getting into our people. We want to see that the money the money being given as the equalization fund. Looking at the inter-county boundary, where we get the Pokots, and we keep bringing them together so that they can share their experiences, so that they are able to know that whatever ails us in our county is what is ailing the other people in their county. In our county is what is ailing the other people in their county. In our county is what is ailing the other people in their county. Engagement of communities and political leadership, I've mentioned about it. And we are happy to say that we've also been able to get 600 million that is going to support the region together with other consortium members. We have the JQuat, we have the Amaya, we have ICRA, and we have, I don't know where the echo is coming from. And we have E for Impact, we have CSI, a small NGO in Samburu, and NRT, Northern Region Trust, whom we shall be implementing the 600 million grant from the EU with. And we hope that this grant is also going to see us move forward and get to implement some of the activities that we had hoped for. We also keep fundraising, and we are hoping that we are going to get other donors or other partners to come and work with us, those who are like-minded within the setup of Amaya Triangle Initiative. I think that is the end, and we keep saying that it is time for us to turn to each other and not on each other, because we need to work as a team and not as a team and not team. Any question?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I think we will take the seat first, then we will take the questions after the next presentation. Okay. Thank you very much. Can we give an applause for... Hello, everybody. Thank you for those of us who are online for remaining online, and those of us who are here, thank you for patiently listening to us, to the presenters, as they make the presentations. Madam Virginia, thank you very much for your presentation. It was indeed a very nice one, and very good because it was a practical thing. Here in academia, we do a lot of theory, concepts, and we hope to bring them to work and implement them. But for you, you are starting from the ground, implementing issues to do with bringing people together through development, and you have shared with us. We really appreciate, wish you well, and may God bless you. We will be taking questions after the next two presenters. And now I want to call the next presenter, who is Dr. Mwenzwa. Dr. Mwenzwa is here, so he'll come and present here. And he's presenting on a paper titled Agenda for National Cohesion and Integration. Welcome, Dr.
Thank you very much, colleagues. My names are as indicated. I am Dr. Mwenzwa. I teach at the Department of Social Sciences, specializing in sociology and community development. And I'm standing here to do a presentation on the gender agenda in national cohesion and integration. And I want to start by us understanding what really we mean by gender, so that we can be able to put it within the context of national cohesion and integration. And we are saying gender is social, and gender is different from sex, which is biological, and therefore gender means the expectations that the society have on us in terms of our behavior, in terms of our values, in terms of general world outlook. So that we are saying that we learn gender. We are not born with gender, but we are born with sex. And if we learn gender, then it is about the way we have been brought up, the way we have been socialized. And therefore, when we talk about gender, we are not saying that sex has no relationship with gender. Sex has a relationship with gender, but we need to know that sex is biological, it is given, it is natural, but gender is social, and therefore that is what we learn from our parents, from our significant others, from our teachers, from our religious leaders, and whoever we interact with. And that's why we are saying gender is a question of performance in terms of what we do, but not the way we have been created. Now, from that understanding, we want to also understand the concept of cohesion and integration by saying that it is that state of affairs in which there is sustainable harmony in society, that environment in which there is peace, that environment in which civic engagement is constructive and not destructive, we had the experience of destructive engagement, or rather, destructive civic engagement after the 2007-2008 general election, and I'm sure all of us here, we are grown-ups and we know what happens. So we are saying that if we have to agree or we have to disagree, we need to disagree in order to agree, and therefore we engage in what we are calling constructive civic engagement or constructive conflict. So that if citizens have to agree, they need to agree on matters of principle, they need to agree on matters of principle as opposed to disagreeing on personalities. So that when we talk about cohesion and integration, race, ethnicity, and ethnicity is very much pronounced in our country, gender, disability, socioeconomic status, religious affiliation, political affiliation, geographical area of origin do not define who we are. Rather, they define that diversity which we need to harness for national integration, for national cohesion. That state of tranquility, that state of harmony, where we experience cohesion and integration, is when brotherhood and sisterhood are by action, not by mere words. We are brothers, we are sisters. But when I go back to my tribe, we talk in different language. I had the experience of listening to a video, and I know some of you have listened to it. I think it was posted yesterday. It was about some community talking so badly about another because one of them has been installed, quote unquote, to be the spokesman for the Mount Kenya region. And the video, I don't think the video should be played in public because it was so, distancing. We are distancing one another. I mean, we are distancing ourselves from one another. And that's why we are saying these are the kind of things that PLO was talking about. That when one of us approximates the presidency, not even becoming the president, approximates the presidency, we become so excited, we forget that we are a country, we start behaving as if we are tribes. So that we are saying, when we are experiencing cohesion and integration, peace, consensus building, conflict resolution have to be institutionalized as part of our behavior. When we talk about conflict, we are talking about opposition. We are talking about a situation of dispute, a situation of disagreement, incompatibility of goals between two groups, between two people. There could also be conflict within yourself, so that at the end of the day, you cannot be able to make a decision in terms of how to go forward. But we are saying conflict is not necessarily bad. There is constructive conflict, where we disagree in order to agree. Of course, when you talk about conflict, we are saying sometimes it can be characterized by physical violence and war, and I think this reminds us very well of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Our neighbors in Ethiopia, our neighbors in Sudan, our neighbors in Somalia, we have all that experience, and we know that because of the conflict that is around our neighbors, it has been exported to this country in the sense of exporting arms and ammunition. That is what is causing conflict in the Amaya triangle that our presenter talked about. Otherwise, where are these arms coming from? Why is there so much ammunition in our roads? Why are we experiencing armed robberies? Where are these guns coming from? I don't want to believe they have been issued by the government. It's because of the conflict that is surrounding our country, and therefore the export of those arms and ammunition. Conflict implies a stressful and happy, depressing, and frustrating situation, and therefore it is a situation that calls for remediation. But then we need to be able to think of conflict in terms of its actualization and in terms of how we can be able to put gender to matter, to be an aspect of conflict solution, to be an aspect of peace building. So that when we talk about gender mainstreaming, it has an origin. And it emerged from the Beijing platform of action. That was because of the dissatisfaction with the earlier approaches that looked at women but ignored men in some aspects, looked at men and ignored women in some aspects, and therefore the idea of gender mainstreaming should be and must be about looking at the needs, looking at the opinions of men and women as opposed to looking at the opinions and views of just one gender. So that we are saying it is a process through which we assess the implications for women and men in any planned action, whether it is peace building, whether it's about legislation, whether it's about policy, whether we are initiating programs and projects. We ask ourselves, where are the needs of men, where are the needs of women, so that we can be talking about gender mainstreaming, so that if we have several streams, there is one mainstream, and we want to put everybody in this mainstream so that they can be able to reap the benefits of that mainstream. And therefore it's a strategy for making women and men concerns, experiences, matter in the design, implementation, monitoring and evaluation of socio-economic activities. Then, if we have to mainstream gender in conflict resolution, in peace building, what is really the relationship between gender, conflict, and peace building? And here we are saying gender remains a cross-cutting issue on a time-space disassociation. Irrespective of whatever time, irrespective of whatever area, gender is a cross-cutting issue. And therefore, we are also saying that conflict in itself remains inevitable and sometimes, very many times, necessary in society. And here we are talking about the constructive part of conflict. Then if gender is a cross-cutting issue and the conflict is inevitable, then there must be a relationship, and we must come up with approaches in which to mainstream gender within conflict resolution, within peace building. Obviously, peace is not optional if we have to realize development. And if peace is not optional, if we have to realize development, peace presupposes the absence of destructive conflict, but not necessarily the absence of conflict, because we are talking about that type of conflict which is constructive and which is beneficial to the society. If then peace is important for development, we must say that society must always strive for peace and constructive conflict. And if we have to do that, we have to involve men and women. We have to involve boys and girls, so that at the end of the day, we can get their opinions from both sides, so that at the end of the day, as we come up with a decision, we are coming up with what we call a hybrid decision. Conflicts, of course, affects women differently from men. Women are likely to suffer more than men in conflict, and women may get indirectly involved in conflict by way of caring for those who have been affected. Men may be involved as combatants. Men and women get involved in conflict in general. And therefore, when we are coming up with peace initiatives, conflict resolution, we must include the views, the opinions, the contributions of men and women, because at the end of the day, these two are affected by conflict. And if peace has to come, then it has to come through those two groups. In the world, in Kenya, everywhere, we have a very elaborate institutional framework in the form of laws, in the form of policies, in the form of conventions, in the form of legislation, in the form of regulations. They're everywhere. When you talk about Kenya, we are talking about the gender policy of 2011. The Constitution of Kenya itself, at Article 27, about the equality of men and women when it comes to appointing positions. Are we adhering to that? What about the equality of men and women into a marriage? Are we implementing that? And I think this is what PLO was talking about. We have the institutional framework, but to implement it is a problem. And that's why, at the end of the day, we need to go back and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? Just to illustrate the idea of gender discrimination and gender representation in some of the public service bodies, look at the Public Service Commission. The commission has 50% representation. Parliamentary Service Commission, 64% men, 34% women. That is in line with Article 27 of the Constitution. Look at Kenya Pipeline Corporation. I think that board of directors needs to be dissolved because it does not live up to the spirit of Article 27 of the Constitution, because it's about 70% versus 22%. Kengen, the board of directors, 58%, for 2%. That is within the Kengen is 69%. It needs to be dissolved. Kenya Power, that's all right. The Commission for University Education, that's all right. The National Commission for the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, 71%. I hope I presented this yesterday when the commissioner was here. It needs to be dissolved and reconstituted so that it is in line with Article 27 of the Constitution. The National Gender and Equity Commission, that's all right. KRA, the Kenya Revenue Authority, a wide disparity. The directors need to be sacked and reappointed so that we can live up to Article 27 of the Constitution. BBI, 75% men, 25% women. And when the lawyers were arguing in court, I would have expected that they also say that the Constitution is wrong in the first place, so that it does not even go to collect the views. I don't know why they were not looking at that. Look at the Supreme Court before the appointment of the new Chief Justice. It was not up to the provisions of Article 27 of the Constitution, and there is no lawyer who saw that. I don't know why. Look at all the bodies. I know somebody could be calculating for the Karatina University top management in terms of gender. Now, we come now to the area of what is the gender and gender in the national cohesion and integration. We may seem to be repeating, but given that conflict, disputes affect men and women, then we are saying the institutional framework should be framed in such a manner that it includes the needs and the aspirations and the wishes of men and women in terms of whether we are constituting a public body, in terms of whether it is the way it needs to be implemented. And therefore here we are saying that at every level we need to see gender being represented. And here we are saying that we are asking the question, how has gender been factored in peace building and conflict resolution? Many times it is like an afterthought. Look at the constitution of the negotiating committee after the post-election violence. There were three men on both sides. Then after, I think, 2 or 3 days, Madakarua was drawn in one of them, then Salikosgei was drawn in the other. It's like an afterthought. It was not there, and it was not in the mind of those who constituted that committee. And we are also looking at the BBI process. We have seen that it does not live up to the provisions of Article 27. Then we are asking, how should gender be factored in peace building, in conflict resolution? And we are saying the levels at which this needs to be mainstreamed is in the investigation to identify the genesis of conflict. How are men involved, how are women involved in bringing about conflict? When we are constituting decision-making organs of the state, we need to look at gender. When we are constituting peace and the consensus building committees, whether they are at local level, at the national level, at the global level, we need to ask ourselves, how has gender been factored? When we are designing the strategies for conflict resolution and peace building, we need to ask ourselves, how has gender been factored? When we implement the strategies for conflict solution, we need to know, how has gender been factored? We need also to know, when we are coming up with laws, policies, regulations, enforcement and compliance agencies, are we mainstreaming gender? Simply because men and women have different needs when it comes to peace, when it comes to conflict. And when we are doing monitoring and evaluation of the efficacy and effectiveness of these strategies, how are we mainstreaming gender? We are also saying, when we do research and the redesigning of the strategies for better results, men and women need to be involved. Men and women need to be researchers. Men and women need to be subjects. Thank you. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mwenzo. Yes, you had a lot of things to tell us, and indeed, I believe members, participants, both online and those who are here physically, will be raising a number of questions. Can we give Dr. Mwenzo a better hand? Now we want to call the next presenter for this session. And then after this presentation, we will take questions. Kindly continue posting your questions online. We will take questions, and then we can break for lunch. The next presenter is Mr. Keitani SB. Please welcome.
My name is Simon Keitany. I'll be presenting on the role of youth and women in national cohesion, integration, a case study of Baringo pastoral communities. I'll begin with some introduction. We've been given the introduction of what integration and cohesion is, but because charity begins at the lowest point, I'm going to check on Baringo, a small part of Kenya along the border, where we have 3 communities coexisting together. They have different ways of doing things, but my main point of the one I'm taking is concerning the 3 communities, that is the Ilchamus, Pokot, and Tugen. They share a border along in Baringo, that is. And they occupy the arid part of Baringo, that is the lowland of Baringo, the arid and semi-arid lowland of Baringo. In Baringo, we have the island, then we have the lowland where they've occupied. The 3 communities that are occupying, they are pastoralists in nature, and they have lived in that area since 1900, around 1900 when the Tugen settled there. Then came the Ilchamus and the Pokot, and they have lived there in peace, although with occasional cattle raids. And those who participate in these cattle and the cattle raids, and the major players in this cattle raiding are the youth and women. I'm going to explain why. And the main objective of this study, I had 3 objectives. One was to examine the role of the youth in the conflict experienced in the area among the communities. And the next one was to establish the importance of women in fueling or ending the constant fights. Then the third one was to interrogate the role of government in bringing the youth together to end the conflicts which are constantly experienced in that area. And this study was guided by, or I adopted the human needs theory, in that it helps to explain the nexus between the women, youth, and these conflicts experienced at the border. And the study took place, as I had earlier explained, in the border, in Baringo County, along the border of the 3 communities. And we explored, used the exploratory research design, and we targeted 3 groups, that is the youth, women, and the elder generation, who would explain the role of these 2 groups in the constant conflicts that are experienced along the border. And after the study, there were several key findings, and we found out that the main players in having this problem along the border are the youth and women. In that, when they have conflicts, they are the ones who are approached to end this conflict. The older generation, yes, are the initiators of peace along the border, but because the main players or the main actors of this conflict are the youth, assisted by women, it is the youth and women who are the main players in bringing that cohesion. And some of the examples which came out was, when the government holds peace meetings, the older generation turn up, the youth always avoid the meetings, and if they don't turn up, the next day, or even in the evening, you will hear there were some raids have taken place somewhere. And it's the youth who are the main players. So the moment the government forces the youth to attend such meetings, the resolutions are, in the evening, you will rarely hear of any conflict later. But once the youth are not involved in those peace meetings, the end result is it will just be an academic, or it'll just be a meeting like the other meetings. They draw allowances, then the conflict still continues. But once the youth and women are involved, most of the times you get that the peace is achieved immediately, or some time they have a peaceful period before another conflict occurs. Then another result is they have taboos in the community where initially, when in the past, they would raid a community, or there will be raids between these communities when they are looking for something to use, maybe when they are looking for cattle for marriage or whatsoever. And one of the taboo was they used not to kill people. Now, with the current generation of the youth and the younger women, at times you find they raid a place, they take all the cattle, then if need be, they can kill those who don't give them opportunity to raid. So in the community there are taboos, and those ones who are enforcing these taboos are the women mostly, because they are the ones who speak to their kids and their husbands. And the women are the main players in that. Once they instill some sense of interest in these men and women, the raids become less, then people live in peace along that border. Then initially also in the past, maybe not right now most of the times, if there was a conflict, if women remove their, I've used the term in Kalenjin called legetio, it is a waist, it is a waist band, which women use when after giving birth to restore the stomach back to the normal size. Now, if there is a fight between maybe the Pokot and the Kalenjin and the Tugen, or the Ilchamus and the Tugen, then a mother removes that waistband, throws it on the ground. That war instantly ends, and because they take it as the last resort, before a lady considers to remove that waistband, it is the last resort. Maybe it's something no one would want to do anything further after that. So women, once they decide to do that, the conflict ends most of the times. If it was a baraza or it was a peace meeting, then the conflict escalates between the men who are around there. If a mother decides to remove that waistband, the war will just end because of the strength of that, of the removal of that waistband. Then we have trade, of course. Along the border, these three communities, when there is peace, they engage in trading between themselves. They cross over. From the Tugen part, they go to the Pokot land to trade. Then the Pokot come all the way to Marigat, which is a town near the border. But when there are conflicts, the trading activities are stopped. Now, these trading activities bring cohesion in that in the market, they don't choose that this cow belongs to a Pokot, or it belongs to a Tugen, or it belongs to a Chamus. They do the trade based on the quality they want. So these trading activities brings them together. And of course, before the trade begins, there is a tradition where the auctioneer begins by asking if there is anyone who has anything to say about cattle which are lost or something like that. So it brings them together, they become cohesive, and they enjoy that tranquility when the trade is on. Then we have construction of new access roads. That's the role of the government or the county government. They've tried to open up several access roads, maybe to the interior of Pokotland, where they had issues. So once there is a problem, or when there are raids reported, these access roads help in that you can access the hinterland where nobody would access the other time. So the government has tried so much in opening those roads, and where cohesion comes in the matters of roads is when they are constructing these roads, they contract the local youth and women all the way to Pokotland. Those ones who have been contracted from the Tugen land can walk interland to the Pokot land. And Most of the times they enjoy that peace and cohesion, and you get the roads now become an agent of bringing these people together. Then we have the border, that is the motorbikes association, which these communities have. We have the Pokot, the Tugen, and the Ilchamus who reside along the border, and they have associations. When these politicians promise them that they'll be having Samarambe or something like that, these circles bring all of them. It doesn't matter whether you are a Pokot, you are a Turkana, or a Tugen. They come together. And these border guys have a good way of helping each other. And they don't look at whether this one comes from this community or comes from the other community. As long as you own a motorbike or you work with someone who has a motorbike, you can join the association. And it has brought them together. Then we have matters education. You find if one is born in the Tugen land, then they get admission in a school, maybe in Pokotan or in Chamus, like Ngambo Secondary School, they interact. And this brings them together in that they share ideas, then they become one. And it opens up their mind. And like Prof. PLO said in the morning, one is born in maybe Marigat, then goes to study in Nginyang, which is in Pokot. They get to realize that the things they do in Marigat are different with the ones which are happening in Pokot, or the problems they have in Pokot are different from the ones they have in Marigat, and they share ideas and they get to know more about it. Then we have intermarriages, and the main players in these intermarriages are the youth and women, because the youth who've traveled to the interland get to marry from the Pokot, the Tugen people marry from the Pokot, or the Pokot marry from the Tugen and the Ilchamus. And these intermarriages bring them together, they share ideas, and when they have a problem, when the Pokot are planning maybe to attack the Tugen, those who are married to the Tugen side will tell them that there's something they are planning and it might be disastrous. You have to look out for that. So those are some of the results which were found out. And for recommendations is that the intermarriages ought to be encouraged so that these people can live together and maybe have the youth and women are the main players who should advance this intermarriage amongst themselves. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our four presenters have done their presentation. Please, you can use that seat there. And now we want to take questions. The presentations were very good. We want to take questions. I'm informed that we don't have questions online. Are there any? Okay. So we'll take the first 5 questions, and then if we have time, we can decide whether to take. In fact, I think I should reduce them. I first of all take 3, and then decide, see whether we have time. If we have time, we can take another 1 or 2. So can we have the first 3 questions? Yes, one of the student readers, Dr. Arari, Professor Lokruka. Starting, oh yeah, and the Professor Nyawera. Okay, Professor Nyawera, you asked. Please, for those asking questions, I kindly request that the technical team provide us with the mics. The old man at the back, the one with a yellow jacket. Yeah, that old man. Yes.
Most probably, the man or that boy will be viewed to be a source of the conflict that arose. Now, my question is, what do you think has maybe contributed to that view, and maybe what are the factors to be considered to resolve the same?
Thank you very much. A good question. And Dr. Arari, you'll get to the mic.
Thank you. To just add on to what the question that has been asked, I wish to find out from Dr. Mwenzo what his input will be on this. Is too much emphasis on women promoting national cohesion? That is my question. My second question will go to Kaitani. We have heard over and over again that we have so many conflicts, continuous, or rather what I'll call perennial conflicts in Baringo. In your study, you chose Chamus, Pokot, and Tugen. As a listener, I was expecting to hear, probably in Baringo, these three communities are not involved in conflict. And I didn't hear that. I need to hear something about that. Secondly, what are the practical ways that these three communities shall take, or rather shall implement, to ensure that we have, I want to use the word, sustainable unity in Baringo? Because since when I was a baby, Baringo has been in conflict. Now I'm almost 40, Baringo is still in conflict.
Thank you, Dr. Arari. Yeah, Professor Kruka.
Thank you. My short question goes to the acting CEO of the Amaya initiative. And my question is, Turkana County residents experience the effects of some of the conflicts arising from members of the Amaya triangle, and yet Turkana County was left out of this initiative. What would have been the reasons for leaving them out? Thank you.
Thank you. So we will answer those 4 questions, and we will start with the Bwana Kaitani. Then we'll come to the CEO Amaya, Madam Virginia, and then Dr. Mwenzwa. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Now, I've been asked why Baringo has always been on the limelight, about always on the bad side. The story that come out is always on the bad side. But I picked on the 3 communities because they share a border, and rarely do you hear there is a fight between the Tugen and the Ilchamus. Most of the times it is the Ilchamus with the Pokot or the Tugen with the Pokot. The common factor is the Pokot. against all these others. Of course, there are people who will say you are lying on the side of the, you are taking a biased approach, but people are trying to check on why the Pokot always against the other communities. And I think over time, you'll realize if Pokot land is opened, if these roads, the access roads which are opened now, are put in place, majority of them, recently you've heard them complain that they want to set up an army camp along the border of the Pokot, the Tugen, and the Ilchamus. And the first people to raise an alarm are the Pokot, because they are saying their land is being taken away. But I think it's probably one of the best things which will happen, because it will, in a way, prevent this Pokot from bringing problems amongst these other communities. Then you asked about practical solution, and one of the practical solutions is ensuring that the youth in Pokot land are taken to school, maybe by force, or they enforce the government rules which we have now, which says all the youth or the children who are of school-going age should go to school. At least they'll have an open view of what is happening, and they'll not just be relying on cattle theft, and at least they will realize we have good places other than Pokot, or we have other vices which we can do rather than just stealing cattle and killing people.
Thank you. I would want to take the first two questions on what Amaya stands for. Amaya is a name from a region between Samburu, Laikipia, and Baringo, where we have a river flowing from Laikipia across the 3 counties. And it is also part of the Sogota Valley. It starts from somewhere there. And why we borrowed the name is that in 2007, when we had the Laikipia Peace Caravan, there was an agreement, a peace agreement that was done at that point. So it was a continuation of where it had been left. And since the peace agreement was done, we've not had any conflicts between the 3 counties. So we borrowed the name. Sometimes they say it's a Pokot name called the Amaya. Others say it's the Samburu name called the Amaya. I don't know which is which. I think Amaya is Pokot, Amaya is Samburu, either of it. And it's a nice name, so we borrowed it. On the lessons, we learned, all the lessons that we are hoping to learn, or we have also already learned, is that as you look at the conflicts, or if you look at the insecurities, we say that insecurity and development are self-reinforcing. You cannot do development without security. And with the insecurities, obviously, it means that there is no development. So it is kind of a reinforcing thing. And this is what we want to break. This is what we want to stop. We do not want to see that we are hindered to do our development because of the many insecurities that are happening there. Maybe even the NGCDF, the government devolution kitty, and the affirmative action, the NGOs are not able to do development because of the many insecurities in the area. So we would want to have a conducive environment where each and every one of us is getting what they are supposed to get from the government for themselves and even for their people, so that they are able to move ahead. There was the issue of, I don't know whether I've made it a little bit clear, and also our leadership. We want to make them aware that if we do not have the right leadership in place, you getting into a position because you are one of those guys who are facilitating those people to buy guns, that is not the leadership that we want. We want the leadership that is thinking positively about their people. We want our people to learn that buying guns for you is an equal measure of killing you, because you cannot be bought a gun to live. You are bought a gun to go to war with someone else. And in war, no guarantee that you are the one who is coming home. You might be the one that will be killed. So we want them to get the right leadership in place. On the Takana County not being part of Amaya, Amaya is a socio-economic, a small economic bloc, as we call ourselves, and we have other bigger economic blocks that have happened. We have the Frontier Counties Development Council, where we have about 10 counties that have come together, the Northern Frontier Counties, as they call themselves, and Turkana is one of them. So they are not left behind. The FCDC has also come up with a peace sector forum, where they've incorporated Amaya as part of it, because we are also looking for peace together. And so we've developed some documents together, and we are looking at ways and means that we can work as a team for the region, for the whole region. I think I've answered most of the questions, or all of the questions.
I would like to respond to the two questions that were directed to me, and one of them was asked by the old man at the back in terms of when we come to matters of courtship, marriage and the rest, and the whole process of intimacy, why is a man always blamed? In other words, I think he is asking, why is man always seen as the aggressor? And I think the answer is pretty simple. We are all socialized that it is men who propose. It's not the other way around. At least in my community, it is men who propose. And I believe in many other communities. So that if there is a sour relationship between a man and a woman, it is always the case that the man must have started because he is the one who is supposed to propose. And therefore, I believe it's part of the way we have been socialized. That's why we like blaming men for being aggressors. In any case, if we are talking about a case of sexual assault between a boy and a girl, who is more likely to be assaulted? I don't want to give the answer because we know it. Now, the other question was about why is there so much emphasis on women? I hope I understood the question. Why is there so much emphasis on women when it comes to gender issues and the matters of national cohesion and integration? It is not just emphasis on women, it has to be about the matter at hand and in terms of who is disadvantaged. When we look at land ownership, the question that comes to our mind is who owns land if ownership was to be defined to include the ability to dispose of the land. And in that case, women are disadvantaged because they don't own much of the title deeds, because that is what we call ownership. When it comes to employment, we have seen the constitution of several boards within the government that even where the Article 27 has been adhered to, it is always tilted towards men and against women, and therefore probably why there is that kind of emphasis. Access to schooling, it takes also a gender dimension in which to some extent women are also marginalized when it comes to sharing of duties within the homestead in terms of who is the breadwinner, who is the partaker of the bread. We find that women are confined, in most cases, they are confined into the private sphere as men participate in the public sphere, and I think even the way we are considered here, we can even count the number of women in this room. That tells you a lot in terms of who is more disadvantaged and why there is likely to be emphasis on women because they are disadvantaged, so that there is a move towards gender parity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our presenters for that session. Indeed, it is now 1:24, and I think we are low in energy. We need to go and take lunch. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Keitani. You have a great future. Thank you, Daktari. You had a very wonderful presentation. I think we need to give you more time so that we can hear from you more. The CEO, Amaya, we want to appreciate you for having come and presented. And we are also looking forward to collaborating with you. Thank you. I also want to recognize the presence of one of our guests who will be the keynote speaker in the afternoon, all the way from Rwanda, the Genocide Museum. Paul, you're welcome. Yeah, we are happy that you are here. These Kenyans love visitors. Yeah. So with that, I want to bring this to a close. Professor Kuruka will be taking over from us in the afternoon. Let's agree what time we need for lunch. Can we take 35 minutes? We will go for lunch in the senior common room. If we took, okay, we have 35, we can come, we have 35 minutes to come in the afternoon. Suppose we added another 15 minutes so that we come at 2:15. That would be 50 minutes. That would be enough to take lunch, come around here, relax, and then be ready to start the session. So with that, thank you very much.